Sometimes they only realize you were the one when life refuses to send them another you. You think they're over you, right? No calls, no texts, stories with new people, new places, new smiles. It looks like you've been erased. But my friends, what if I told you that what you see on the surface and what's happening deep inside them are two very different movies, and the real film, the honest one, is playing at 3 a.m. when no one's watching? Hey folks, imagine this. You're at an airport watching planes take off. One leaves the runway fast, full of noise, full of power, and you stand there thinking, wow, it's gone, that's it. But what you don't see is the turbulence higher up. You don't see the pilot fighting the wind. You don't see the moment that plane has to circle back and land because something wasn't as fine as it looked from the ground. That's how breakups work. From far away, it looks like they took off and never looked back. Up close, there's turbulence you don't know about yet. We're told a big lie. If they're not texting you, they don't care. Simple, clean, brutal. But life isn't that simple, my friends. People don't always show their feelings where you can see them. They show them in small private places where nobody claps, in the car at the red light, under the hot water in the shower, on the pillow staring at the ceiling when the Wi-Fi is off and the masks fall off with it. You think they're over you. But if a certain thing starts to happen inside them, if one specific shift hits their ego and their heart at the same time, you'll be shocked how fast "I don't care" turns into "what did I just lose?" That's the moment we're talking about today. The moment that makes them come back 100%. Not because you begged, not because you played games, but because the truth finally caught up with them. There's a quote I love: "Ego leaves first. Regret arrives last." At the start, their ego is loud. "I'll find better. I'm good. I'm free." They treat you like a song they can skip any time. But folks, life has a funny sense of humor. It will send them the same lesson again and again until they understand what they walked away from. One day, that song they skipped becomes the song they can't find anywhere else. And here's the part that stings a little, but also sets you free. It's not your chasing that brings them back. It's your absence. It's your silence. It's your growth. When you stop performing, stop begging, stop explaining, and you quietly start living, that's when the universe flips the script. You stop orbiting them. Your life stops spinning around their mood, and suddenly they feel the emptiness where your energy used to be. We'll talk about that this they feel, that trigger, that inner earthquake that makes them remember you, miss you, and want you back in a way they can't hide. We're going to break the lies, add a little humor, and still hit you with the hard stuff you need to hear. Because this isn't just about them coming back. It's about who you become while they're gone. So stay with me, my friends. Don't click away. This might be the reminder that finally lets your heart breathe again. And before we go on, drop this in the comments as your affirmation: "I choose my peace." That's 4 simple words, but it's a whole new life. Type it below, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 1. The first crack in their ego. When "I don't care" starts feeling fake. People don't stop caring. They just get better at pretending until the pretending starts to hurt more than the truth. Think about that for a second, my friend. You see them online, smiling, posting, living. You hear through people that they're happy, busy, over it. And a part of you dies every time because your brain keeps repeating the same stab: "They don't care. I meant nothing." That's the first lie we're going to break together. Imagine this. There's a glass window in front of them. On your side, you see nothing but a clean, hard wall of silence. No cracks, no lines. It looks strong, unbreakable. On their side, it's fogging up every time they think of you. Hairline cracks are forming, tiny lines of pressure spreading slowly from the inside. From where you stand, it still looks perfect. From where they stand, it's getting harder and harder to pretend everything's fine. That's what I don't care really is. A window, not a wall. It looks solid until one day it doesn't. At the beginning, they're all performance. I'm fine. It needed to end. We weren't right for each other. They say it to their friends. They say it to themselves. Some even say it out loud, hoping it will become true. And you're on your side thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I really was that easy to forget. Be honest with yourself. How many nights did you replay their coldness and turn it into a story about your worth? How many times did you stare at their happy posts and feel like someone had replaced you with the next version overnight? But here's what they don't tell you in those moments. I don't care is never an emotion. It's a shield. Nobody repeats that sentence unless something inside them does care. Indifference doesn't need a speech. Real indifference doesn't need an audience. It just walks away quietly and never looks back. When someone has to declare how unbothered they are, there's already a battle happening inside them. The louder the I don't care, the bigger the storm behind their ribs. You might ask yourself, if they care, why didn't they fight for me? Why didn't they come back? Why was it so easy to let me go? That's the fear talking. The fear that you were always second choice. The fear that you were just a placeholder. The fear that makes your mind say, clearly I wasn't enough, or they would still be here. But let's flip that for a second. How many people stay in good things and still sabotage them because they can't handle being loved correctly? How many times have you seen someone push away calm because chaos feels more familiar? There's a quote that says, "Not everyone leaves because you weren't enough. Some leave because your depth demanded a version of them they were too afraid to become." Sit with that. Sometimes your presence holds up a mirror. You don't see it at the time, but your loyalty, your consistency, your emotional honesty, it exposes their running, their immaturity, their fear of commitment. Instead of rising to meet you, they retreat to what feels easier: distance, distraction, new faces, new highs. It looks like they're over you. It's really they're over-facing themselves. The first crack in their ego doesn't show up as a full breakdown. It shows up as those little moments they don't talk about, when someone says your name and they feel that tiny punch in the chest. When a song comes on and their stomach drops for half a second before they skip it. When they see someone who walks like you or laughs like you and their brain does that double take. They recover, they brush it off, they pretend it meant nothing. But the crack is there, one line across the I don't care act. Why is this so hard for you to believe? Because you only see your side of the silence. You remember how deeply you felt, how hard you tried, how much you gave. You assume if they're not showing the same pain, they never had it. That's the trap. You're judging their inner world by their outer show. And trust me, a lot of people are award-winning actors when it comes to heartbreak. They would rather eat glass than admit, I miss them. Pride is loud. Vulnerability is quiet. So which one do you think gets posted? Another metaphor. Imagine they're carrying a backpack. On day one after you, it feels light. Freedom. No responsibility, no deep talks. No, where is this going conversations. Just air. They feel relieved. They tell themselves they did the right thing. But every memory of you is a small stone. Your kindness, your support, the way you listened, the way you understood their dark parts without running. They keep telling themselves they don't need it, but those stones don't vanish. They drop into the backpack one by one. At first it's fine. Over time it gets heavy. Their back starts hurting. They don't know why. They blame stress, work, life, everything but the truth. It's the weight of what they lost and refused to face. You might be wondering, so if there's a crack, why don't they come back right away? Because admitting they were wrong means killing their old story. That's not easy. To come back, they have to confront their own behavior, the games, the pride, the lies they told themselves about you. Most people avoid that as long as they can. It's easier for them to say, "It wasn't that serious," than to say, "I messed up a good thing." The first crack in their ego is not the moment they text you. It's the moment they stop fully believing their own excuses. That's harder for them than you think. You see, my friend, your mind tells you a very simple equation. No message equals they don't care. But the real equation looks more like this. No message plus busy social media, plus forced smile, plus repeated, "I'm fine," equals someone who is losing a silent argument with themselves. It's confusing for you because you can't watch that argument. You're not meant to. Your job isn't to track their crack. Your job is to heal yours. The hard part is accepting that you may never see their ego break in real time. You may never read the paragraph they type and delete. You may never hear the late-night confession they whisper to a friend. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't happening. Life is full of invisible moments that shift everything. The first crack is one of them. And here's where you rise. Instead of saying, "They're over me, I was nothing," you start telling yourself the truth. They're human. They feel. They bleed. They break like I do. I'm not going to build my worth based on what their pride is currently pretending. That's Stoicism in real life. Not pretending you don't hurt, but refusing to let your pain rewrite your value. It will be difficult. I won't sugarcoat that. Your brain will keep trying to drag you back to that old belief. If I mattered, they would be here. You'll want to check their page, read between lines, decode captions. You'll want to chase answers. But every time you resist that urge, every time you choose to pull your energy back into yourself, you're widening a different crack. The one in the story that says you're only worthy if someone stays. That's the story we're breaking for good. The first crack in their ego is not your responsibility to watch. It's just your reminder that you were never as forgettable as your fear made you feel. Their pride may delay their honesty, but it cannot erase your impact. People remember the ones who brought them calm long after the chaos gets old. So let this be your affirmation for this part of the journey. Write it in the comments. Show yourself, show me, show the world around you. I was never easy to replace. Those 6 words are not arrogance. They're true. And when you start believing that, everything else we're about to talk about will hit even deeper. Stay with me, because the next part will show you what happens when the crack in their ego grows into a fracture they can't ignore. Number 2, when chaos gets boring and your calm starts haunting them. Chaos is fun until it's 2 a.m. and you realize the loudest room in your life is still empty. Let that sink in for a moment, my friend. At the start, when they walk away from you, chaos feels like freedom to them. New people, new chats, new attention, late nights, loud laughs. It's like they've walked into a carnival after leaving a quiet, peaceful garden. And from the outside, you're watching that carnival and thinking, "Wow, look at them. They're thriving. They replaced me in 5 minutes." That's the lie pain tells you. It compares your deepest wound to their loudest performance. Imagine this with me. Picture a kid in a candy store. At first, they're wild with excitement. So many colors, so many flavors, sugar everywhere. They grab everything they can, but keep watching. After a while, the sugar rush hits. Their head hurts, their stomach turns, everything is too much. Suddenly, they remember the simple meal they used to have at home that actually made them feel grounded and full. That's what happens with people who trade your calm for constant stimulation. At the beginning, it's sweet. Later, it's sickening. Right now, you might be stuck in questions. Why wasn't my peace enough? Why was my loyalty so easy to leave? It's a heavy place to stand in, looking at their new life like a movie trailer where you're no longer in the cast. You see them going out, posting with new faces, laughing in places you've never been, and your mind whispers, "I was the problem, I was the boring one, I was too serious." But my friends, sometimes the problem isn't that you were boring, it's that they were addicted to noise. There's a quote that says, "Some people don't know how to sit with calm because their demons only sleep in chaos." Think about that. Your energy was calm. You brought depth. You asked the real questions. You wanted real connection, not just distraction. That's beautiful, but also terrifying to someone who has never learned to be still with themselves. When they're with you, they can't hide behind constant motion. Your presence exposes what they've been avoiding, their loneliness, their fears, their unresolved pain. So instead of healing, they run, and they run straight into the arms of noise. For a while, chaos wins. They're at every party. They answer every DM. They flirt. They joke. They collect attention like trophies. And you sit there asking, was I really that easy to replace? But what you don't see is the private come-down. The moment they walk through the door at night and the laughter echoes weirdly in the empty room. The moment they wash off their makeup or hang up their jacket, and suddenly the silence after the chaos feels heavier than it ever did with you. Your calm starts haunting them slowly. It doesn't hit like lightning, it arrives like a slow sunrise. One small moment at a time. They hear someone laugh, and it reminds them of how yours was softer, more genuine. They have a conversation that's all jokes and no substance, and they remember how they could tell you things they've never told anyone. They sit across from someone new, and it feels fun, but not safe, exciting, but not grounding. That's when the contrast starts burning. They begin to realize something they'll never admit out loud. Chaos is loud, but shallow. It fills the hours, not the heart. With you, there were quiet moments that felt like home. Sitting together, doing nothing. But somehow everything felt right. They didn't understand the value of that when they had it, because peace doesn't scream for attention. It just exists, steady, loyal, honest. Only when they trade it for constant stimulation do they understand what they've lost. And I know what you're thinking here. If they miss my calm so much, why don't they rush back? Because to come back to your calm, they'd have to admit the chaos wasn't worth it. They'd have to admit you were right about some things. They'd have to face the guilt of how they treated you. That's a big pill for an ego to swallow. So instead, they stay in noisy spaces that drown out the truth, at least for a while. But even the loudest room has to go quiet eventually. Picture it like this. Their life right now is a playlist on shuffle. Fast songs, club tracks, hype music, one after another. It's all good until one night the playlist stops on a slow song. One of your songs. They go to skip it. Then they pause, just for a second. Their chest tightens. Their eyes sting for a beat. They take a deep breath. They skip it anyway, but the damage is done. That's your calm knocking. Not as drama, not as begging, just as a memory that refuses to be deleted. Why do they think chaos will work forever? Because it worked before. They've probably run from other people and never had to face the aftermath. They treat connections like tabs in a browser. If one gets heavy, click the X and open a new one. But they underestimate what happens when they finally meet someone whose energy is not replaceable. That's you. You weren't just another tab. You were the whole screen. That kind of presence doesn't vanish when they open a few new windows. This part is painful for you because you see only one half of the exchange. You're dealing with emptiness while they look full. But stay patient with your own story. Your job is not to compete with their chaos. Your job is to protect your calm. The more you work on yourself, the brighter that calm becomes. And here's the twist. The calmer and more grounded you grow, the more their chaos will start to feel embarrassing, immature, exhausting. Not to you, but to them. There will come a day when they're sitting in a room full of people and feel utterly alone, when the jokes feel forced, when the smiles feel plastic, when the fun doesn't land the way it used to. That's when your memory hits hardest. Not because you're desperate for them, but because life finally shows them the difference between being entertained and being understood. One keeps you busy, the other keeps you whole. So instead of asking, "Why wasn't I enough?" start telling yourself the truth. My calm was too real for their chaos. That doesn't mean you were perfect or they were evil. It simply means you were ready for a kind of depth they hadn't grown into yet. And that is not your failure. That's their homework. Let this be your affirmation for this chapter. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show me. Show the world around you. My peace is not boring. Because it's not. It's rare. And the more you embrace that, the more you'll understand that if they ever do come back, it won't be because chaos won. It'll be because chaos finally got old, and your calm never did. Stay with me, because next we're going to talk about the moment your silence stops feeling like punishment to them and starts becoming a mirror they can't escape. Number 3. The shift of power. When your silence stops being a punishment and becomes a mirror. Silence is not empty. It's full of all the answers they tried to avoid when you were still talking. Let that hit you for a second, my friend. In the beginning, when you go quiet, they treat it like a mood, like you're sulking, like you're trying to teach them a lesson. In their mind, it's temporary. He'll calm down. He always does. He'll text. He always does. Your silence at first is just part of the script they're used to. A pause, not a full stop. They think they're still in control of the remote. But something different happens this time. You don't send the long paragraph you usually send. You don't chase for clarity. You don't rewrite the same conversation hoping for a new ending. You simply stop. Not in a loud, dramatic, "I'm blocking you forever" way. More like a quiet closing of a door that should have been shut a long time ago. And that's when the shift begins. Imagine a stage. Before they were the star, they said something hurtful, pulled back, played distant, and you responded with emotion, tears, calls, messages, explanations. Every time they acted, you reacted. You were the lighting, the sound effects, the audience, the applause, all in one. Their ego loved that show. Now picture the same stage, but this time they walk out, say their lines, try their same push-pull act, and there's no reaction, no spotlight, no music, no audience, just quiet. That's what your silence does. It doesn't punish them. It cancels the show. At first, they roll their eyes. He's being dramatic. He's overthinking. He'll be back. That's their ego talking. It's counting on the old pattern. But as time passes and you still don't play your old role, the ego starts to feel something new, uncertainty. The lines it was so sure about stop landing. The buttons it used to press don't work anymore. And nothing scares a controlling ego more than losing its grip on someone's emotions. Now here's the fun part, folks. Your silence starts to feel less like an attitude and more like a mirror. When you were talking, they could argue. They could twist your words, gaslight, deflect, shift the blame. When you're silent, there's nothing to debate, no text to mock, no paragraph to screenshot and show their friends. Just their own behavior echoing back at them in an empty space. And like most people, they're not used to facing that. You know how when you're in a messy room and you turn all the lights on, suddenly you see every bit of dust, every stain you ignored for weeks. That's what your silence does to them internally. It turns on the lights. They start replaying things they said, the way they dismissed you, the way they thought you'd just always be there. Before, they could cover it with your reaction. Now, all they have is their memory and the quiet weight of what they did. You might be asking yourself, if silence is that powerful, why does it feel so painful on my side? Because you're detoxing from your own habit too, your habit of rescuing, your habit of explaining, your habit of bleeding just to prove you're hurt. Letting go of those patterns feels like losing control at first, but really you're stepping into a different kind of control, the control of yourself. You're no longer trying to manage their feelings, you're finally managing your own. There's a quote I love: "Not reacting is a superpower, but like all superpowers, it feels strange before it feels strong." The first days or weeks of silence, your brain is screaming at you to break it. Just send something. Just check in. Just ask if they're okay. That voice isn't your wisdom. That's your attachment talking. That's the part of you that was trained to believe love equals constant effort, even when it's killing you. When you choose silence, you're not playing a game, you're stepping out of a game. And that will always feel uncomfortable at first. Meanwhile, on their side, the script starts flipping. At first, they felt superior. I pulled away, they'll chase. Slowly, that turns into, why haven't they reached out? Then, did I misjudge how much they cared? Then deeper, did I push away someone who actually loved me? Your silence forces them to ask the questions you cried over. You paid that price already. Now it's their turn to sit with the weight of reality. Not because you cursed them, but because you stopped cushioning them from the consequences of their actions. This is where the power truly shifts. Your mood is no longer on a leash attached to their behavior. They don't get an instant emotional report every time they poke you. They can post, they can ignore, they can pretend nothing happened, but your nervous system is no longer their playground. That's emotional self-defense. That's Stoicism in real life. Not, I don't feel anything, but I refuse to keep handing my peace to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. Of course, they'll test it. Eventually, you'll get that light little message. Hey, you good? Been a while. They're not checking on your health. They're checking on their access. Your silence already showed them something they weren't ready to see. They don't control you anymore. Now they want to see if they can still tug on your emotions. If you respond with old energy, over-explaining, trauma-dumping, instant replies, the mirror cracks and the old dynamic returns. But if you respond from calm or don't respond at all, the mirror stays intact and their reflection keeps staring back at them. And listen, my friend, this is not about being cold for the sake of it. It's about being clear, clear on your worth, clear on your limits, clear on what you will and will not accept again. Silence is not a weapon when it comes from truth. It's a boundary. It says, I've already said everything that needed to be said. Now I choose myself. That's not cruelty. That's adulthood. That's self-respect wearing its grown-up clothes. The more you lean into this, the more you notice something else shift. You stop wondering what they're thinking every second. You stop stalking their profile. You stop rehearsing imaginary conversations in your head. That mental energy, once wasted on someone else's chaos, comes back to you. You start thinking about your goals again, your health, your purpose, your future. And the more your life fills with things that actually feed you, the less interesting their drama becomes. That's the real shift of power. Your life is no longer a reaction to their story. It's its own story. So let this be your affirmation for this part of the journey. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show me. Show the world around you. My silence is my power. Because it is. It's not a weakness. It's not pettiness. It's not a game. It's you choosing peace over performance. And as you hold that line, stay with me. Because next we'll talk about what happens when they can't escape that mirror anymore. And they start quietly orbiting your world again, even when they swear they've moved on. Number 4. The orbit effect, when they quietly circle your world again. People don't watch you this closely when they're done with you. They only orbit what still pulls on their gravity. Let that land, my friend, because right now you might be looking at their silence and thinking, it's over. I don't exist in their world anymore. But what if I told you there's this secret stage you rarely see, where they're closer to you than ever? Just not in a way that shows up as a message on your phone. That's the orbit effect. When they swear they've moved on, but somehow they're still quietly circling your life like a satellite that never found a new planet. Imagine the universe for a second. Picture a planet breaking away from your orbit, spinning off all dramatic like, I'm out, I'm free, I don't need this gravity. At first, it looks powerful. They're flying fast, full of momentum, full of ego. But space has laws. Eventually, that planet slows down. It starts feeling the pull again. It starts curving, bending, drifting back into your field without even realizing what's happening. From far away, it still looks like freedom. Up close, it's slowly coming back around. That's them. That's why their silence never tells the full story. This is where your mind starts torturing you with questions. If they still care, why aren't they talking to me? If they're watching me, why not just say something? And underneath that, the deepest fear, what if I'm imagining it? What if I'm just desperate for signs? You're not crazy. You're just stuck outside of their screen, not seeing what they do when nobody's around. Because let's be real, folks, in this era, people can live in your world without ever saying a word to you. Here's how the orbit starts. One day, out of curiosity, they type your name into the search bar. Just to see. They land on your profile, telling themselves it's no big deal. They scroll a little. They look at your recent posts. They notice you look calmer, lighter, maybe even happier. Something stings, quickly, sharply, but they shake it off. They click away. A few days later, they do it again. Then again. Soon, you're part of their routine, not in their chat list, in their search history, in their late-night scrolling, in their private world. They'll never admit this, but your life becomes a quiet checkpoint. They want to see if you're still there, if you've moved on, if you're hurting, if there's still some part of you that signals, I'd take you back. They'll notice the smallest things. A new picture with friends, a quote you post, a travel photo, a gym selfie. They start reading between lines even though they once told you, you're overthinking. Irony, right? The person who mocked your sensitivity is now studying your energy from a distance, trying to decode your silence. And here's the part that messes with them. When they see you not chasing, not begging, not subtweeting your pain, they feel something they didn't expect. Insecurity. They thought you'd be stuck. They thought you'd be obvious. They thought your whole feed would scream, I miss you. Instead, they see growth. They see peace. They see someone slowly stepping into a life that doesn't revolve around them. That's when the orbit tightens. Curiosity turns into obsession, even if they laugh it off to their friends like, I just checked, it's nothing. You might be tempted to do the same thing on your side. You catch yourself checking who viewed your story, counting their likes, tracking when they pop up. Don't beat yourself up. You're human. You loved. You cared. That part of you is not weak. But this is where you have to rise above the old story. Their orbit is not your responsibility. You don't have to match their pattern. You don't have to revolve around them just because they still revolve around you. There's a quote that says, "Be the center of your own universe. Whoever wants to stay in your orbit will adjust." That's the shift. Instead of saying, "Why are they watching and not speaking?" you start asking, "Why am I still letting their silent attention live rent-free in my mind?" The answer usually goes back to your own fear, the fear of being forgotten. Their orbit makes you feel a little safer. At least they're still there. But that safety is an illusion. What matters is not whether they circle you, it's whether they show up with maturity, effort, and real change. The orbit effect is dangerous if you misunderstand it. You might treat it like a promise. They keep watching. They'll come back. Not always. Sometimes people orbit you for years, feeding their ego with your existence, never giving you the closure or commitment you deserve. That's why Stoicism matters here. It reminds you an orbit is not a home. Being watched is not the same as being loved. Curiosity is not the same as commitment. What you can do is flip the energy. Instead of thinking, "They're checking me, so I'll post to get a reaction," you decide, "I'm posting for me. I'm growing for me. If they see it, good. If they don't, still good." Their silent attention becomes background noise. Your life, your healing, your progress, that becomes the main soundtrack. And the more you step into that mindset, the stronger your gravity gets. Not for them, for yourself. You stop being a planet chasing someone else's orbit and become the center of your own system. Here's the truth that will both comfort you and free you. If they're quietly circling your world, they're not over you. But that doesn't mean you pause your growth waiting for them to land. Let them orbit. Let them watch. Let them feel the distance between who you were and who you're becoming. If they ever come back, it should be as someone ready to step in with both feet, not as a satellite looking for entertainment. So let this be your affirmation for this part. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show me. Show the world around you. I am my own center. Say it like you mean it. Because the more you live from that place, the less power their silent orbit will hold over your heart. And stay with me, because next we're going to talk about what happens when life itself starts teaching them the lesson you tried to show with love. The moment karma stops being a word and starts feeling very, very real. Number 5. Life becomes their teacher. How karma makes them feel what they made you feel. Karma isn't revenge, it's just life putting them in the same position where they once laughed at your pain. Sit with that for a moment, my friend, because I know there were nights where you whispered to yourself, "Do they even care what they did to me? Will they ever feel this heaviness, this confusion, this ache I'm carrying?" You watched them walk away untouched, smiling, posting, moving on, like breaking you was just another Tuesday. And somewhere deep inside, even if you don't like to admit it, you wondered, will life just let them get away with this? Imagine this. There's a mirror in the middle of the road. When they walked away from you, they did it with their back to that mirror. They thought they could outrun the reflection of their choices. New city, new person, new routine, same old self. But the thing about life is simple. It doesn't chase, it waits. It places that mirror a little further down the path and lets them walk right into it when they're finally tired and out of distractions. One random day, when they least expect it, they look up, and there it is. The same feelings they once dismissed in you, now staring back at them. At first, they don't recognize it. They get ignored by someone they care about and say, it's nothing." They get left on read and laugh it off. They try to connect with someone who gives them breadcrumbs and convince themselves, "I'm fine. I don't need anybody." Sound familiar? It should. Because it's the same script you once used to survive what they put you through. Life has a funny way of handing people their own lines and letting them choke on the taste. You might be asking, but how does this even happen? They look so confident, so unbothered. Here's the thing, they can control the story they tell others, but they can't control the situations life sends them. One day, they finally meet someone they actually like. Someone who makes them feel seen, excited, hopeful. They catch themselves thinking, this is different. I want to keep this. And then that person pulls a them on them, mixed signals, silence, inconsistency. Suddenly, they're the one overthinking every message. They're the one checking their phone every 3 minutes. They're the one feeling that tightness in their chest when hours go by with no reply. That's not your doing. That's life stepping in as the teacher you could never be for them. You tried to teach with love, with patience, with words. They didn't listen. So now life switches the method. There's a quote that says, "When someone refuses to understand your side of the story, life will make them the main character of it." That's karma, not lightning bolts and punishment, just repetition of energy. What they made you feel becomes their new curriculum. This doesn't mean you sit there obsessively waiting for their suffering. That's not power. That's still attachment dressed in a darker outfit. The point isn't to enjoy their pain. The point is to understand you were never crazy. The way you hurt was real. The way you loved was real. The way they treated you was not normal relationship stuff. Life confirming that to them is not about you winning. It's about balance being restored. Still, I know there's a secret part of you that thinks, if they finally feel what I felt, will they finally understand my worth? Maybe. Often they do. There comes a moment where they're sitting somewhere, maybe at work, maybe in a car, maybe in a crowded room, and a wave of realization crashes in. They remember how you showed up consistently, how you replied, how you checked on them, how you tried to talk instead of play games. They replay the times they brushed you off, gave half effort, acted like your emotions were too much. And now here they are, feeling too much for someone else who doesn't know what to do with it. Suddenly, your overreactions don't look so dramatic anymore. But here's where it gets difficult, for them and for you. For them, because their ego has to swallow the fact that the one person who would have never played them is the one they played. For you, because when you hear about their own heartbreak or see them posting sad quotes, a part of you might want to rush back in and save them. Old habits wake up. You remember the version of them you fell for, not the version who hurt you. You start thinking, maybe they learned their lesson. Maybe this is our chance. This is where Stoic strength comes in. Life may be teaching them, but life is still teaching you too. Your lesson is this. You are not required to be the nurse for wounds they created by stabbing you first. Their regret is not your invitation. Their sadness does not automatically equal your responsibility. Yes, they might finally feel what you felt. Yes, they might finally understand. But understanding doesn't always equal readiness. Someone can regret losing you and still not know how to hold you. So instead of thinking, good, life is getting them back for me, shift it to, good, life is giving them a chance to grow. Whether they use that chance or not is between them and their reflection. Your focus has to stay on your own growth. On the way, your pain is shaping you into someone wiser, someone with stronger boundaries, someone who can love without abandoning themselves this time. Think of it like a balance scale. For a long time, everything felt heavy on your side. Tears, overthinking, sleepless nights. Their side looked light, carefree. But over time, life starts dropping small weights on their side. Ghosting, confusion, broken expectations. The scale starts balancing out. Not because you pushed it, but because that's how energy works. What you put out comes back. What they dismissed comes back too. The beautiful part. You don't have to track it. You don't have to wait for updates. You don't need proof. You just need to trust that the universe has better memory than you think. Your healing is not about hoping they hurt. It's about trusting that you don't have to hurt forever to make things fair. Fairness doesn't come from seeing their tears. It comes from finally letting go of the need to see anything from them at all. So let this be your affirmation for this chapter. Write it in the comments. Show yourself, show me, show the world around you. Life will teach what I no longer explain. That sentence is freedom. It means you can stop exhausting yourself trying to make someone see your value. You can step back, breathe, and let life do what it always does. Show people the truth in a language they can't ignore. Stay with me, because next we're going to talk about you. About what happens on your side when your energy upgrades, when your heart finally stops waiting at a closed door. And that's the exact moment they feel the pull to come back strongest. Number 6, your energy upgrade. Why they always come back when you've finally let go. Nothing pulls them back stronger than the moment you stop orbiting them and start orbiting your own life. That one stings a bit, doesn't it, my friend? Because for the longest time you thought the opposite. You thought, if I just love harder, if I just stay available, if I just prove I'm here no matter what, they'll realize my value and come back. You tried loyalty like it was a spell. You tried patience like it was a contract, and all it did was drain you. Meanwhile, they moved like someone who always believed you'd be there whenever they felt like returning. But here's the plot twist the universe loves. People rarely come back when you're waiting at the door. They come back when you've finally walked away from the porch and started building a whole new house somewhere else. It's not magic, it's energy. It's the shift that happens inside you when your heart quietly says, I still care, but I care about myself more now. Imagine your life as a phone battery. When this all started, a huge part of your charge was going into them, checking their socials, replaying conversations, talking about them with friends, stalking old photos, writing and deleting messages. Every thought was a little cable plugged into their memory, draining you a few % at a time. You wondered why you were tired all the time, why everything felt heavy. That's why. Your energy wasn't yours. It was an emotional subscription they weren't even paying for. Then something subtle begins to change, not in one dramatic moment, but in quiet ones. One day you wake up, and your first thought isn't about them. You don't realize it at first. You just get up, grab your coffee, do your day, and sometime in the afternoon you suddenly notice, wait, I didn't check their profile this morning. That's the first little unplug. Another day, you see their name pop up somewhere, and your stomach doesn't drop like it used to. It twinges, sure, but it doesn't hijack your whole mood. Another cable unplugged. You start doing small things for yourself without realizing how big they are. You go to the gym, not to glow up for them, but because your body deserves care. You meet friends and catch yourself actually enjoying the moment instead of just using it to distract from missing them. You pick up an old hobby you left in the dust when your whole world was us. You laugh at something and notice it didn't hurt this time. Your energy is returning home, piece by piece. There's a quote that says, "Healing is when your memories stop breaking you and start becoming just stories you lived through." That's the upgrade. They stop being your whole story and become one chapter in a much bigger book. You stop checking the door. You stop waiting for a notification to decide if today will be good or bad. You start realizing, I have more power over my life than I thought. My days don't begin or end with another person's attention. On the outside, this might look simple. To other people, you're doing better. You're moving on. But on an energetic level, something huge is happening. You're shifting from a state of chasing to a state of attracting. You're no longer broadcasting, "Please pick me, please see my worth." You're sending out a different signal now. I'm building a life that feels good with or without you. That frequency is confident, calm, grounded, and that's exactly when they start to feel the loss in a way they never have before. Because let's be real, folks, they were comfortable when they knew you were emotionally glued to them. Even if they didn't want to be with you, it boosted their ego to know they could come back any time. You were the emotional safety net, the spare key they kept on their keychain just in case. But once your energy upgrades, that spare key stops working. The door they thought would always be unlocked starts feeling different, colder, firmer, sacred. They sense it before they can name it. They'll see a photo of you and feel a strange distance, not just physically, but emotionally, like you're no longer standing where they left you. They'll hear you laughing in a story and feel like they're listening through a wall. They'll realize everyone still has access to the old version of you in their memory, but they don't. And nothing shakes a person more than realizing the version of you they took for granted has evolved into someone they can't easily reach anymore. And here's the wild part. You didn't upgrade to make them come back. You upgraded because staying stuck hurt more than letting go. That's real growth. Growth that isn't a trick. Growth that isn't a performance. You stopped doing things so they'll see what they lost, and started doing things because you finally saw what you were losing by staying stuck. Yourself, your time, your joy. Is it easy? Absolutely not. There are days where your heart still aches, days where you still miss the way things used to be, days where you wonder, what if? Healing isn't a straight line, it's more like waves. But over time, the waves get gentler. They stop knocking you over. They start just brushing your ankles. You realize you can feel grief and still move forward. You can remember them and still choose you. That's emotional maturity. That's Stoicism in practice, not just in quotes. From the outside, it may look like nothing. From their side, it feels like everything. The string they used to tug on, cut. The emotional remote they used to hold, dead batteries. They can still think about you, still orbit you, still test the waters, but the energetic control is gone. And that's why, ironically, this is the phase where they feel the strongest pull to come back. Not because you pushed, but because you finally stopped pushing at all. So instead of asking, why do they always come back when I've moved on? Start telling yourself they're drawn to the person I become when I stop abandoning myself. That's the real magnet. Your self-respect, your peace, your focus, your glow that isn't for them, but is undeniably visible to them. Let this be your affirmation for this chapter. Write it in the comments. Show yourself, show me, show the world around you. My growth is my magnet. Because it is. The more you rise, the more everything that's meant for you will feel that pull, including sometimes the very people who once walked away. Stay with me, because next we're going to talk about what they do when that pull gets too strong to ignore. The little harmless messages, the casual check-ins, the hey stranger tests that reveal their ego is back at your door, knocking softly. Number 6. Your energy upgrade. Why they always come back when you finally let go. Nothing pulls them back harder than the moment your heart stops waiting at the door. Think about that for a second, my friend. For the longest time, your energy has been leaning toward them, even in silence, even without texts. Your body is here, but your mind is there, checking, wondering, replaying, hoping. You wake up with their name in your thoughts. You go to sleep with old conversations buzzing in your chest. On the outside, you might look calm. On the inside, you're still standing in front of a closed door waiting for it to open, and somewhere deep down, you're scared of one thing. What if the only way they come back is if I keep caring this hard? Now let's flip that lie on its head. Imagine you're holding a rope. On the other end is them, distant, distracted, living their life. You tug, you send energy, You pull, you check their page, you think about them all day. That rope is full of tension. They feel it. Even if they don't respond, even if they ignore it, they can sense you're still there. You haven't let go. A part of them finds comfort in that. They're not going anywhere. I can come back whenever. The rope becomes their emotional safety net while they wander. But something starts changing. Not in them, in you. You get tired of holding that rope. Your hands are burned, your arms are exhausted, your heart is sore. One morning, without any dramatic speech, you loosen your grip. You stop stalking their profile. You stop checking their last scene. You stop building stories out of silence. Your focus turns, not toward another person, but toward yourself. It feels strange at first, almost wrong, like you're betraying the love you once felt. But slowly, your nervous system starts to relax. Sleep returns. Food tastes normal again. Music doesn't hurt as much. That's the beginning of the energy upgrade. There's a quote I love. Letting go is not about losing them. It's about finding yourself again. At first, that sounds cliché. You want them, not a self-help slogan. But over time, you start noticing what that actually means. You begin to remember who you were before the anxiety, before the overthinking, before your entire worth got tied to whether one person stayed or left. You remember your hobbies, your goals, your own opinions that had nothing to do with them. You stop living every day as a reaction to their absence and start living it as a response to your own potential. And here's where it gets almost unfair in how predictable it is. The more your energy returns home to you, the more they feel the loss of it. At first, they can't explain it. Something feels off. They're not getting that invisible hit of validation anymore. The rope that used to hum with tension feels slack. They don't feel you reaching for them in the way they were secretly used to. That soft, steady comfort of "they'll always be there" starts fading. They may not notice it consciously, but their ego does. That's when the itch begins. Maybe they check your profile, and this time, something is different. Your eyes look lighter. Your smile looks less forced. Your posts don't sound like coded messages to them anymore. They scroll and think, "Who are they becoming without me?" That question stings more than they'll ever admit, because your healing is a mirror that shows them what they chose to walk away from and who they chose to leave you with, yourself. They were so sure that would break you. Instead, it's building you. You might be asking, if letting go is so powerful, why does it feel so scary? Because you're letting go of your favorite illusion, the illusion that you can control the outcome by holding on tighter. Deep down, you've believed, if I stop thinking about them, I'll lose them for real. But my friend, you never had them if the whole relationship depended on you sacrificing your peace. Real connections survive you choosing yourself. Only unhealthy ones fall apart the moment you stop self-abandoning. The hard truth is this: as long as your energy is begging, chasing, or waiting, you're not in your full power. You're negotiating with your own value. You're saying, "I'll keep bleeding here just in case they come back." Letting go feels like death at first because you're killing that version of yourself, the one who thought love meant staying on your knees. But on the other side of that death is a different you, grounded, calm, selective. The kind of person who doesn't just want to be loved, but wants to be loved right. And that's exactly the version of you they didn't expect to see. They thought you'd either crumble or stay stuck. They did not plan for a version of you that glows without them. That's the "this" people never talk about. The thing that pulls them back 100% isn't a special text, a perfect photo, or some mind game. It's the energetic reality that you are no longer available in the way you once were. You're not waiting at the door. You're not sitting by the phone. You're not building your day around the possibility of their return. You've walked back into your own life, and that absence of need is the loudest thing they've ever felt. Some will test this shift. They'll reach out here and there. A "hey stranger," a reaction to your story, a half joke about "remember when." They're checking if your energy still belongs to them. But now you have a choice. Old you would jump, pour, over-explain. New you listens to your body. Does this message feel safe, or does it feel like bait? Does this person sound ready, or just restless? You respond from clarity, not from hunger. And that, right there, is when you truly become untouchable. Not because no one can reach you, but because no one can drag you back into old patterns without your permission. So here's the beautiful paradox. When you finally, honestly let go, that's often when they start coming back hardest. But by then, something crucial has changed. Your peace matters more than their presence. You're not begging for a seat at their table anymore. You're deciding who sits at yours. Their regret might show up. Their confession might come out. Their "I never stopped caring" speech might arrive right on schedule. But the real question isn't, will they come back? It's, will this version of me still want what they're offering? And that, my friend, is the real victory. Not their return, but your rebirth. The moment your energy upgrades, you stop being the person who needs them to choose you, and become the person who chooses themselves first, always. Let this be your final affirmation for this journey. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show me. Show the world around you. I choose me now. 4 simple words, but they change everything. If this message hits home for you, don't keep it to yourself. Press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs this reminder today. Stay with me, because this is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of you living from your true power.